Good morning, team. Well, it's a frigid winter morning here in northeastern Wyoming, which I find somewhat appropriate when you consider our next small-scale project that we're working on. This 1974/75 Polaris snowmobile. Now, the reason that I say 1974-75 is because the hood here is off of a 1974, and the tub and the rest of the chassis and everything else is a 1975. And while there was virtually no difference between the body styles and involved parts between the 74 and the 75 Polaris, there was a few. And one of them is actually to the owner's advantage. You see, while the 74 does have a similar hood decal setup as to what can be seen on the 75, the 74 also has full three-dimensional hood badges. And these ones are not in good shape. There's a big chunk missing out of it. They're all sun faded. They're all cracked up. And since the sled itself is a 75, we're going to convert this hood to be basically the exact same as the 75. We're going to remove these badges, plug the holes, and when the owner gets it back, he's going to be installing all of the 1975 decals on this hood, and you'll never know the difference because other than the hood badges, there was no difference. However, before we get that far, we've got a lot of other things we have to sort through. One of those things is just how heavily damaged the underside of this is. I'm not sure how well this shows up on video, but this is just a wrinkled mess. There's big dents just scoured everywhere on it. And like I said, this is just a mess. While these skis are brand new, the springs that attach to them are original, and they're going to be sandblasted. They're going to be removed and sandblasted. This hood is absolutely covered in cracks. As you can see, somebody got in here and did some lousy body work. I don't know how well that shows up on video, but that's in at least a 1/16 of an inch or more. This isn't the same level as this. You can feel where it drops off right here. So that's going to need to be addressed. All these cracks, all the way up and around. Good size cracks. Good size cracks. Somebody painted right over a sticker. I see that on semis even all the time. Good size cracks. Cracks all around the perimeter where the grill will go. Again, good size cracks to the point where there's even material missing. This is an actual break. More good size cracks. I mean, these are really good sized. This thing's been wiped out a few times in its life. As you can see right back here, big deep cracks. They're all the way through the gel coat, all the way down into here. At least they didn't paint over this sticker. Now I'll go ahead and remove this hood and we'll have a look underneath. Now this vintage sled project has to be done right because this vintage sled is going to be entered in vintage sled shows. So it's going to have to look original. It's going to have to be right. That being said, the owner, who's a pretty particular person, went ahead and pulled the motor out and most of the inner workings out so we can get the entire engine compartment sandblasted. He left the exhaust in here, but it's not mounted. I can pull it out whenever I want. He's got some ceramic coating that he's going to install on these exhaust pipes, but I'm going to blast them. So I'm going to pull these two-stroke exhaust pipes out of here, blast them when I blast everything else here, and then give them back to him in bare metal form. And he'll go ahead with his ceramic coating and take it from there. But the inside of this engine compartment is all going to be sandblasted and painted in original Polaris blue. In fact, everything here is going to be original Polaris blue, except for the hood, which is going to be in original Polaris white. We're going to go ahead and either remove or cover up this gear housing. It might be a set of chain gears or something in here. And that way it doesn't get blasted or painted, either one. And like I said, I'll remove the pipes. Everything else in here is going to get sandblasted and painted. This entire tub is going to get sandblasted and painted as well. And while it might be icy and frigid outside, that is not going to stop me from going ahead and getting this thing sandblasted here this morning. Well, let's get to it. Okay, now here I've transferred this off of the sawhorses and onto a cart. Went ahead and pulled the cart outside, set up the same sawhorses that it came off of with just this plate here that I use for outdoor sandblasting. Got all my pieces on here I'm going to be blasting. I'll blast this, then I'll get it off of this cart and flip it over and blast the underside, flip it back onto the cart and pull it inside. All right, so we got it back inside. It's all blasted inside and out, completely down to bare metal. And over here we've got this exhaust clear down to bare metal, and as I mentioned, I won't be doing anything with this. I'll just hand that right over to the owner. He's got plans for that. We've got these springs, which I detached from the skis because I didn't think that they needed to be sandblasted. Got this front piece, all the rust is off of it. I went ahead and masked these off because these should be maintained and not all pitted up, because they go through the bushings and they're going to always be greased and be able to turn and not sit and chew up the bushings around them. And at this point, I'm going to flip this tub over, put the front part of it up on a much taller sawhorse than these two sawhorses. These are kind of short. I'll put the front of it up on a much taller sawhorse, so it's kind of poking up in the air at about a 30 to 45 degree angle. That way I can get to the underside of this tub and start banging out dents and doing some body work. Well, I did go ahead and bring in the taller sawhorses. I actually have many sets of sawhorses outside. I could set up many workstations if I wanted to, but I brought in a taller set, put a board on top of it, and used it just to put this hood on. And I changed my mind about using a sawhorse on the body. Instead, what I did was this. Instead, for the body, I just went ahead and grabbed a piece of railroad tie and set the main brace, the rollover cage, if you want to call it that, on it. So now I'm far enough up in the air that I can work on it, and I'm not tripping over a sawhorse as I try and walk around it, because there's a lot of metal straightening and a lot of body work that's got to go on here. And now that I've propped it up in the air where I can more easily get to it, I'm going to start straightening some of this metal. And now that it's sandblasted, you really can't tell. You have to do it all by feel. But there's a lot of metal straightening that's got to happen before I start applying body work. Well, we'll see if shop foreman Kevin's out here. Well, hey, Kevin. He typically likes to come in at the beginning of these projects. Once we start getting things like primer on it, I don't let him in anymore. Hey, buddy. All right, I've got it beat back into shape a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and get some body work on it. And here it is with all the body work done. Now I'm ready to go ahead and get some primer on this. As you can see, it's just body work from front to back. Metal work and body work is basically all this thing is consisted of. Bent and twisted up, yet it's thin enough metal. You got to be careful with it. Very tricky to work with. Now I'm going to get some primer on it though. And now that I've got the underside of this sled in primer, I'm going to go ahead and turn my attention to that busted up hood. And now here's this hood flipped upside down. You can see the areas I've prepped. Just on the back side of where all the major cracks are. I went ahead and took that vent out, took those hood emblems off, prepped all inside of here. Even up here where this is broken out. All inside of here. And now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead and get some glass on that. Alright, so it's getting closer to the end of the day here, and what I did today was I went ahead and sanded down all of this wet sanding primer. Found a few spots where I needed to patch in with some glazing. Now I'm going to go ahead and reprime the entire thing and resand it tomorrow. And on this hood, I got rid of all the decals. I went ahead and pulled the hood emblems off, fiberglassed the holes on the back side. I finished all the fiberglass work on this yesterday, cleaned it all up this morning. Went ahead and sanded everything, filled all the cracks with glazing, filled all the holes where the hood emblems were with glazing, finished out everything, scratched, sanded everything. Now I'm going to go ahead and get this in wet sanding primer and second coat that tub in wet sanding primer as well. Well, here it is the next morning. I'm going to go ahead and resand this entire tub again. And I'm going to sand down this hood from front to back. And then I'm going to get it in white primer. I'm going to get that tub and these springs and all these other parts in gray primer. And I might even get paint on one of these two guys today. All right, so I've set up a couple ladders with the board across the top with a bungee around each side just to make sure the board doesn't roll off or become compromised. I've scratched these skids, put them on here, put the suspension on there, these two extra pieces on there. This piece is going to be black, so I moved it off to the side. These are going to be primed in gray, primed in black, primed in white. This is all sanded and ready to go. Primed in gray. And this is all sanded and ready to go. And once all this stuff's primed and the bottom of this is cured out enough, I'm going to have some help. We're going to flip it over, Probably put it up on 2 5-gallon cans, one stacked on top of the other to give it some decent height, about a little under waist high. And we're going to place it with the tracks in just the right spot where this is balanced, and it'll just be sitting there balanced on 2 5-gallon cans, and that's all that'll be holding it up. So I can go ahead and get to all sides of it. That way the bottom will be primed already, and that'll be done, but that way I can prime the inside of it, the other side that you can't see or get to from here very well. Prime all of that, get that all done, and then when I go to paint it, I don't have to worry about flipping it over or touching it at all. I can just paint the whole thing. So here it is the next morning. Went ahead and got the bottom part of this snowmobile all primed yesterday. The boys came over and helped me set this up on a couple of 5-gallon buckets, and it is fairly balanced. If I didn't have this strap contraption on the back, that's fine. It would lean a little bit forward, and I didn't want it to lean at all. I wanted it to be good and stable, so there was zero chance of it falling off. So I went ahead and just added a bit of a counterweight to the back here, but it's not necessary. And now I can go ahead and get to all sides of it. When I go to paint, I can paint every single part of it all in one shot. And I got the hood primed as well. And I got the skis and the suspension pieces primed while I was at it. Now this morning what I'm going to do is I'm going to look this over, and if it doesn't need anything, I'm going to go ahead and paint the hood in white. Then I'm going to give it an hour or so to dry. Then I'm going to remove it from the shop entirely and go ahead and paint the rest of these components blue. So I set the camera up in its spot and thought I hit the record button, but I guess I didn't. But anyway, here's this hood all painted in white. And even though it's only been an hour, it's already completely set up. I can go ahead and move this hood out of this room and get these other components all shot in blue. All right, so here it is the next morning. I'm going to go ahead and unmask what little there is to unmask, put together what little there is to put together, and go ahead and get this guy sent out the door here today. All right, well, I've got it put back together about as much as it's ever going to get, considering this owner still needs to put all the electrical back in it, the motor back in it, the gas tank back in it, all the lines back in it. There's so much that still has to be done to this machine, but I've pieced it all together so we can more easily load it up on his pickup truck, and let's go ahead and have a look. Okay, so this is a 1974/75 Polaris, probably a 440, but I'm not sure about that. The tub is off of a 75, so therefore the serial number is a 75. The hood is off of a 74, and we went ahead and took the hood emblems off, filled all the holes, filled the absolute series of cracks that just covered this hood from front to back. There's not a single one remaining. All of the body damage was repaired. All the fiberglass was repaired internally. The skis themselves were brand new. All the suspension was original. That all got painted, taken apart and painted. As you can see, even these rubber stoppers have been masked off. Went ahead and put this all back together with the original Teflon kind of slip guards. Put all new cotter pins in them so they can be easily removed, because this sled's not going to see much action on snow from here on out. It's just a show sled. And the owner still needs to put the plastic covers on the skis, and I mean, everything still needs to be done to this machine. But we did all the body work. It's nice and straight, and this was an absolute mess. I got my light out. You look up underneath. I mean, this thing looks brand new. It doesn't just look repaired, it looks brand new. This, the owner wanted to keep chrome if he could, but we couldn't because it was just too pitted up and rusty. Here I've gone ahead and moved my light. You can really get a good look up under there. And like I said, it looks brand new. There's not a hint of any damage. And this thing was nothing but wrinkles. It looked like a bag of golf balls when it showed up here. Skis are just placed up in there and they're just hanging by their own tension. But we can't really load this up onto a bed of a truck without scraping the underside, so we had to have something down there. And here I've got my spotlight down on the floor. As you can see, got up under here, down both sides. Again, looks like it was brand new. Even reshot the sides of the track holder, whatever that's called. All the details around the back, double coated. You can see we masked off this gear housing. So it's not been harmed by sand or overspray, either one. Now this is ready to be put back together. Turned out nice. It's show worthy. Well, we've gone as far as we can go. It's now up to the owner to go ahead and get this put back together before he can get it in a show, which is less than a few weeks away, by the way. Well, all right, there's another one in the books. Hey, if you like this video, you should just take a second, reach over and hit the like button. That's going to help me grow my channel. And if you want to see more of what goes on around here, go to Facebook and check out Flash Industrial Painting. And if you like this video and want to see more videos like it, or domestic auto body, or art, or gardening, or semi-auto body, or any of the many things we do around here, you might as well just take the time to go ahead and subscribe, because, you know, we always got something going on. We'll see you guys around.